Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of quick demos regarding how to use Excel to crunch numbers, how to graph, or how to use Excel to graph for you, and how to use it to calculate slopes for you and stuff like that. So I'm first going to start with some dummy data here. I've just gone distance and time. Notice that in this column I've made these numbers kind of nice, and these ones just happen to be whatever. In other words, I'm kind of imagining that I'm driving in a car, and every 5 minutes I ask myself, what does the odometer read in kilometers? So I'm going to take this data and I'm going to say insert, and I'm going to insert a graph. And before I do, I'm going to insert a graph the wrong way. Most people just brainlessly click here and go, oh gosh, I'd like a graph that looks like that, and then they plunk this thing in here and they say, and then they hand that in and say, see, I graphed. And of course this is a terrible graph. I mean, take a look at it. There's two lines here instead of one. And what's this axis here? Let's see, 1 through 12. I don't even see 1 through 12 here. Actually, I do here if you go like this. So actually what we've got is two lines. This line here is this data and this data plotted simultaneously, and the blue line is this data and this data. But nowhere in this graph are these two columns. So don't do that. Don't just mindlessly click on a graph. So I'm going to delete this. And here comes the first piece of advice. When you're graphing and you ask for a graph, always, in science, always ask for something called a scatter plot. When you get a scatter plot, this starts to look a lot more like, let's see, from 0 to 120. So our x-axis is this, and our y-axis appears to go 0 to 60, and that's 0 to 60. So I'll also highlight, right-click, say Add Trend Line, and I want a linear line, y equals mx plus b, and I'd like the equation for the line, yes please. And so there's my slope right there. So I don't have to do all the y equals mx plus b. It's already drawn a line of best fit. Now, one of the things you may have noticed is that that's actually not the standard way that a distance time graph comes out. Normally we like time on the bottom. So I'm just going to copy this information here, and I'm going to paste it right there. And then I'm going to redo that same thing. So notice that the column location has changed. So I'll say again, insert, and I'll ask to insert a graph, and I'll say give me a scatter plot, which is right there. I'll say OK. We'll right click here, and we'll ask for a trend line, and we'll ask for a linear line, and we'll ask for the equation of the line. We'll hit enter, close. Now you should notice that about every 5 minutes it goes up about, well, let's see, it goes up about, well, that's almost twice as much. So you can see that it goes, well, actually the slope's about 2. And you can see again that the slope's sitting there. So the slope of line of best fit there is 2.1. As a last step, we'll make this thing actually look like a graph. So I'll grab this thing right here. I'll expand it to roughly an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. This doesn't look like any sort of real graph paper I've ever seen. So I'll right click here and ask for minor grid lines. I'll right click here, ask for another set of minor grid lines. Some people really want these rectangles to look very squarish, but that's actually not a requirement. I notice that the numbers go up in sensible gradations here, 20, 40, 60, 10, 20, 30, so that's fine. I've already asked for the equation for the line to be printed out, so I see my slope there. This is a crazy title for a graph, so let's put in, I don't know, something like that looks a little bit better there. I had that cut and pasted. Right, what else? Well, I notice there's no axes or no labeled axes here. So I think I'll close this, and this thing on the bottom should read time in minutes. So I'll say time, and I want some titles here. So I don't know where these titles are going to appear. Oh, there we go. Axis title, double click. So this is time, brackets, always put your units in brackets, minutes, and over here this is, what is this? This is distance, units in brackets, kilometers. Great. And if you want to change the size on that, you're welcome to. Some people will drop this down and they'll change the font on that, make it a little bit bigger. I don't know if Control Plus works. No, it doesn't. Anyway, fiddle around with the thing, make this look good. You got a title here, you got major, minor, grid lines, you've got this properly labeled Bob's Your Uncle. Okay, hang on. Bob may be your uncle, but this is not quite finished. Our slope is 2.1124, but we need units associated with that. And remember, slope is rise over run. The rise here is kilometers, the run is minutes, which means that slope is 2.1124 kilometers per minute. That's relevant in the case of chemistry because frequently what happens is over here this is concentration, which is moles per liter, and this is seconds, which means the slope is moles per liter per second, just like its rise per run.